Açık. Hepinize merhaba. Etkinliğin biraz ilerleyen saatlerindeyiz. Kaldığınız için hepinize teşekkür ederiz öncelikle. Ben çok fazla vaktinizi almayacağım. 1-2 dakikalık bir Oredata tanıtımı yapacağım, öyle söyleyeyim. Çünkü aranızda tanıdık yüzler var, birlikte çalıştığımız kişiler var. Ama elbette ki herkes bizden haberdar olsun isteriz. Sunumun Türkçe kontenjanını ben dolduruyorum. Az sonra solistimiz Tiago'ya sözü devredeceğim. O İngilizce şekilde devam ediyor olacak. Çok kısaca bahsetmek gerekirse. Thank you. Bu arada ismim Burak Atamguc. Oredata'da satış ve pazarlama fonksiyonlarından sorumluyum. Çok kısaca bahsetmek gerekirse biz Oredata olarak ne yapıyoruz? Oredata olarak bulut bilişim teknolojilerinde danışmanlık ve hizmet sağlayıcısı olarak çalışıyoruz. Birlikte çalıştığımız pek çok sağlayıcı firma var. Burada logolarını görüyorsunuz. Ama bunların en başında ve oldukça açık ara önde Google Cloud geliyor. Şurada gururla sergilediğimiz üzere son 2 yıldır da Google Cloud'un aslında operasyonlarını yürüttüğümüz Orta Doğu, Kuzey Afrika ve Türkiye bölgesinde yılın iş ortağı ödüllerini alan data analitik tarafında, altyapı modernizasyonu tarafında, BI tarafında hizmetler veren bir firmayız. Son slide, dediğim gibi çok kısa. Bunu nasıl yapıyoruz? Bunu aslında 90'ın üzerinde teknik çalışanımızla, danışmanımızla yapıyoruz ve bunun 30'dan fazlası veri bilimi, data science üzerinde görev yapıyor ve bu alanda yaptığımız Kuzey Amerika, Avrupa dahil ama daha ağırlıklı Türkiye ve Orta Doğu'da pek çok proje var. Sözü noktalarken açılış konuşmasına döneceğim aslında. Hatırlarsanız Peter demişti ki, evet çok güzel hani konuşuyoruz, analiz ediyoruz ama hani pek çoğumuz biliyoruzdur. Paralysis by analysis diye bir terim var. Ona düşmemek lazım. Yani evet, güzel bir use case bulup hepimiz kurumlarımızda yapay zekayı hayata geçirelim ama bir yerden başlamamız lazım. Bunu yaparken de bizim gibi bunu farklı alanlarda, farklı endüstrilerde, hatta farklı coğrafyalarda hayata geçirmiş bir çözüm ortağıyla çalışmanın hepinize katkısı olacağını düşünüyoruz. Diyerek sözü tamamlayacağım. Bana her yerden ulaşabilirsiniz. Özellikle LinkedIn çok rahatlıkla ulaşabilirsiniz diyorum ve sözü Tiago'ya devrediyorum. Stage is yours.
Okay. Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. Thanks everyone. Pleasure to be here. Very good to be back to Turkey. My name is Tiago. You might be wondering what means my job title, which is a fair question. So I'm part of Google Cloud. I lead a team of technical specialists of artificial intelligence that mostly we engage with our most strategic customers and partners, like Oredata, to help them to leverage our portfolio of AI solutions for their different use cases. We also work very close with our different product teams to kind of foresee what's coming down 3-6 months in terms of priorities, roadmap, but also to get that feedback and iterate quickly. So when we talk about Google, I think all of you are aware of it. I'm sure you use it in your daily life from one factor or the other one. From, of course, 25 years doing search, there is a lot of AI or machine learning behind the search engine. Of course, when you commute from location A to B with Google Maps, it tries to predict how much you're going to take based on a lot of data there. If you go into YouTube, it makes you recommendations. And I can go on and on. Probably we're here to talk about generative AI. So I think the earliest example that you can probably think about from Google, broad part of the company, is when you use Gmail. Actually, for many years, it started to predict the next sentence when you start to type an email. You might remember that. There was already generative AI. Probably the name was not coined by that time. And behind that, and to focus a little bit more on Gen AI, there is a technology that was actually mentioned this morning, invented by Google, brought to the markets, and delivered as a paper called Transformers. And that's actually the technology that is behind practically any large language model behind the scenes. Long story forward, and you see that's under the hoods. I think what is important to keep in mind is Google has been an AI company since the beginning. It's part of our DNA, and we keep bringing that into our different products and services that serve billions of customers on a daily basis, but also that let companies from any size to use them in the cloud, which we're going to talk about. A second aspect that I think is very important to think about is when it comes to innovation. As I said, we have been doing AI for a very long time. We have actually more than 3,000 researchers, part of DeepMind. That's our part for research, which have brought over the years more than 7,000 scientific papers around AI, machine learning, and of course, generative AI. A quite interesting one that you might have heard in the news last week is about AlphaFold, the newest version, which is really about bringing generative AI capabilities to science, which allow to create proteins, which we expect that will have a big impact on drug discovery over the next few years. I could, of course, spend a lot of time to show you a lot of very useful and cutting-edge technology that DeepMind and other parts of Google research is bringing. I just want to show you a few ones. This actually is one that is a bit of a combination of the language models that we talk about so much, but also, of course, getting to robotics. So the example here, and you see that we work with a lot of universities there, is being able to have a vision-to-action model, which basically consists on giving a task, in this case to a robot, and make sure it performs. And of course, behind the scenes, there's a lot of technical complexity where you can see it performs tasks that has not been part of the training originally. That's a good example where we will see a lot of innovation. Second example I want to show you is this is not a drone flying in someone's house. It's actually a technique also published in a paper a few years back that basically, based on a set of pictures, allows to create a diffusion effect, which allows to generate a render map of a space. That technology is actually already used in Google Maps. You might have seen the 3D version there. But more interesting is that technology and the algorithms behind it is actually available and open. Once more, open source is very close to our culture, which allow people to create different use cases. Of course, you can model your house, which might be nice. But if you have a physical business, like a restaurant, you might want to be able to create such maps and share with your customers. Okay, after a very brief recap on where we come from in terms of AI, machine learning, show you how we really invest in bringing the latest innovations via DeepMind into our products. Of course, I'm here to talk about generative AI, more else. So this slide is actually slightly old, depends what you consider old. In a generative AI space, as you know, there is a very fast phase. So this slide is more than 1 year old, and I think it's still very relevant. Those are just a very aggregated summary of the top use cases that we see companies that we work, enterprises, startups, different types, different industries, where they start either to think about leverage generative AI or they really leverage. And I'm going to show you later a few examples where that is already happening. So the first one I will focus is actually the yellow one. That remains, I would say, the top priority use case, which is really about customer experience. And this was mentioned also this morning a lot, is really how can we transform or improve the way we interact with our customers in a more natural way, creating virtual agents, can be a chatbot, can be a virtual agent, voice bot, can be both of them, to make sure that first we have faster time to market to create those agents. They, of course, should be smarter, they should interact in a more natural way, but also we should give them some freedom to create the answers for our business problem. Of course, you can think about online retailers, but you can also think about internal use cases like HR and other ones where you want to have an agent and ask questions about a specific problem. So conversational AI is a big area there, and I'm going to show you a few examples later. Then the second one is the one you see there in blue. As you know, and I'm sure in your organizations, you have data, a lot of data. Data growth remains exponential. Without data, you cannot get any kind of insights, with or without AI. But the reality and the challenge over the years is that we have a lot of data sources, a lot of data silos, and it's quite hard sometimes to find information, but more hard is to query that information in an easy way, okay? So if you're a business person, or for example, a business analyst, you might want to be able to use your natural language, English, Turkish, to ask some things. So it's like going behind the dashboards. Of course, dashboards are very useful, but you might be able to ask what was my sales per country in 2022. That's the kind of things that you should be able to query across a data source or across multiple data sources. That's a very good example of there. Then the third one is, of course, on the more creative side, and it's impressive. I'm sure you've seen the capacity that some of those foundational models have to create images and videos. That's extremely helpful in the creative space, but also in the marketing space, being able to create faster the content, reduce the time to generate maybe new campaigns, create new campaigns. That's definitely a new space that probably 2 years ago we will not consider that will be that big. And the last but not the least is, and I get this question quite often, is what happens with the data scientists, right? Because people have been hiring data scientists for a while, and they bring a lot of value to the business, and they are still needed from creating predictive models, like doing your revenue forecast, detect if you're going to lose a customer. Those models remain important, but they are also very important on understanding how those large models or foundational models work. So the idea is that your data scientists should be able to leverage them and customize to your business problems. Long story forward, we have been seeing just a massive amount of demand from any kind of company in the world, at least, as I said in the beginning, my team covers Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I know that's a very large territory, but I'll say there is virtually no industry that has not been coming to us and asking about different use cases, some of them in the categories that I said before, some of them in more industry specific. So you see a lot of logos there. I could talk about customers for a while, but I just want to give you a few examples, maybe a bit that we've engaged recently. One of them is ING, probably you know them. It's a big Dutch bank. They use actually a chatbot that allows their teams to find information quicker and being able to save customers faster. That chatbot has actually been in production, and they expect that in the next few years they'll increase up to 30% some of the costs there. Another example is Carrefour. I'm sure you're also familiar with them. They actually created a tool that allows them to design and create marketing campaigns, pretty much similar to the use case I mentioned before, to be more tailored to their end customers. Another one that comes to mind is Orange, the telecom operator. They actually created an agent that allows their customers to find information on their website. They started with French, but now it's available in 26 languages, which is, I think, a pretty easy way to scale out that kind of use cases. I could talk about many more there. I will just mention the last one, Forbes. I'm sure you have read articles in Forbes. They also created an experience that allows to find information, news in that case, and get them a bit more tailored to the end user, which you can also try online. And the last one, you see Vodafone there. They actually have a custom search solution using some of our technology to be able to search across more than 10,000 of roaming contracts across many operators. Okay, I think there's a small parenthesis here, but a really, really important one. There's a lot of requests, as I mentioned. Some people call it hype. I think on the short term, you might see it as hype. I think on the long term, it's going to be massive, the impact that this kind of technology will have across the industries and in the society. But I think it's very important when you think about your companies, what it really means to adopt generative AI. And I think a very simple way to think about it, and really resonates with a lot of customers that talk about, is there is a massive difference between what is a consumer and what is enterprise needs, okay? In the beginning, I talk about a little bit how Google serves billions of customers in some of these business lines. But when it comes to yourselves, your companies, public entities, research entities, they want to build their own solutions, and that's enterprise problem, okay? Obviously, the kind of question is very different. It's not like I say, I'm in Istanbul for 4 days, can you recommend me a trip? That's probably a very personal question if I'm here. But I think it's really about the kind of business questions that you ask on top of some data. And this becomes the point. It's not about asking open questions, it's asking a use case and business-specific question that you might have. And that requires that you have enterprise requirements, which means for a lot of things that you've been in use for a long time on deploying those systems. Security, networking, managing my keys, leveraging my own data, because those models really bring the higher value to your use case when you can leverage your data. But then the next question is, okay, so what happens with my data? And of course, Google, since we've been releasing those models, we assure you that we don't use your data, we don't store your prompts, or don't use them to train those models. So all those kind of questions need to be in place, and that's exactly why I'm going to focus in the enterprise side of building generative AI capabilities. How many of you have heard the word Gemini last few months? Okay, that's few people, okay. Okay, I know it's the end of the day, so bear with me. Gemini, we brought it back last year. It's our latest family of advanced models. We've been definitely putting a lot of passion and work on creating those. They are actually spread across different parts of Google, including Google Cloud. They are by default multi-model, and that's, I know, a big word, but that basically means that you can use more than you input. In the beginning of Gen AI, I know that was not that long ago, people just interacted with text, which is fine, allows a lot of use cases. But if you have text in a picture, those models usually can do either one or the other one. So the idea is you can have input of video, audio, and then, of course, text. They also are more sophisticated in being able to do reasoning. And you can think, of course, as humans reason, those models have some capabilities to do that, which means they need to understand the task that you are asking them to do, and sometimes explain how they're going to do that step by step. I think that's the easiest way to go for them. They also have quite interesting capabilities to generate code, not just code, testing, security, comments, a lot of more things there where we expect also to be a big productive gain in terms of development of applications. So when it comes to multimodal, I think one of the big differences, and this is just a very simple example, is if you are an online retailer, typically you go very specific in what you want to find. But when you multimodal, the fact that we can understand, as you can see, pretty long sentence, what I'm trying to find, the model is able to understand that and search, in this case, in a space of articles, products, visually, what I'm trying to find, and rate them. That's a good example where you can start to combine multimodal. As I mentioned, I want really to focus how you can bring some value or solve Gen AI use cases on top of the Google Cloud for the reasons I mentioned before of having an enterprise security-grade platform for that. And the simplest way to do that in Google Cloud is using something called Vertex AI, which is a platform to be able to develop, prototype, but especially deploy generative AI use cases, but not only generative AI use cases, also predictive AI. That's just a very simple example. That is actually one of the capabilities part of Vertex AI, but a very, very useful one. Everyone has documents in their companies physically. Hopefully, they'll get digitized over time, or digital ones. So I can think, for example, in insurance, and look at that picture. That's actually not a great picture, right? It's rotated, the image quality is not the best one, there's actually some spill of water, and the idea is there that I'm able to understand the content in that picture, and it has a pretty complex layout. So being able to extract, as I was mentioning, in insurance, in banking, that's a very common use case that you need to process invoices, claims, and the idea is to extract that information, and then, of course, complement with your business case. Okay, bear with me. I know this is the slides with a lot of colors, a lot of names. I'm not here specifically talking about product names, but I just wanted to give you a little bit the idea of how you can approach creating and developing a generative AI application or system on top of Google Cloud, okay? So I'm going to just go very briefly on some of them, but I'm going to focus on the blue part, which is exactly where we see most of our customers creating those AI applications. The first one is, of course, the infrastructure. You probably heard that it's not possible to do AI with enough compute power, and it's actually a lot of compute power that you need to be able to do either the creation or the consumption of those models. And that's where we need to sit on a world-class infrastructure specialized for AI. Then, everything that you see in blue, I'm going to show you in a bit more detail, but just think about the factory, where you can either from a code perspective or less code or no code perspective, being able to choose your models, adjust them, fine-tune them, which is where you really make them work for you, and of course, create agents, which I'm going to cover in a second. Aside from that, which I'm not going to focus today, but I think is really important to keep in mind, we have been adding some of those capabilities to a lot of solutions in our portfolio, either from cybersecurity. Of course, if you use Workspace to create your documents, your spreadsheets, you really start to see that AI is there to assist you, mostly with the name of Gemini, that you can interact with that and get some work done. And on top of that, there's a lot of pre-packed AI solutions that are more targeting business users. Like if you have a contact center and you want to have a fully virtual contact center integrated with a virtual agent, that's one of the options there. The one for documents, and then we have a few ones that are a bit more specialized for retail, media, and healthcare, but also for banking in terms of risk. So that's kind of the big picture. I know it's a lot, but I'm just going to give you a bit more detail there. I mentioned briefly infrastructure. I cannot stress how important it is to have the right and enough capacity of specialized infrastructure. That basically means GPUs. We've been working and partnering closely with NVIDIA for a long time to bring the latest generation of their array capacity. So the companies that they either want to create their own foundational models from scratch or tune other ones, they most likely do that. On top of that, Google has been actually doing AI at a very large scale for a long time. We also have developed our own chips for that. They are called TPUs, which allows once more to be even more efficient in terms of cost performance. So that's one path to start. I would say that 90% of the companies don't start on that path. That's the most advanced one where we really are creating a very domain-specific language model or model in general for your domain, or maybe you want to create a smaller version, so on. But that's a very important one. Usually, you are leveraging this under fully managed services, which I will briefly touch up on. So I mentioned Gemini before, and I promise I'm going to show you a few things of Gemini. But our view of the world is there is not just one model that can solve every single business problem that you are trying to tackle, okay? So the idea there is we have something called the model garden. I think the name self-describes very well. It's really a catalog where you can go and search a lot of models out of there. I'll emphasize probably the things in the bottom because they are really the ones that we see customers adopting a lot large scale. The idea is there to bring, of course, the best first-party models, as Gemini, that I'm going to show a bit in more detail, but also the most prominent open models. Probably you might have come across names like Mistral, or third-party like Anthropic, and get them delivered as a service, as an API that you can consume. So that's the big picture, and we really see customers trying out the different models, see which one performs better for each use case, and really iterate fast. I think that's one of the keys to deliver GenAI. So Gemini has been evolving very fast. The latest version that we delivered, which was just a few months ago, is called Gemini 1.5 Pro. I will not tell you the details of the naming in the versions, but actually brings a lot of fewer capabilities that are very new to the market. One of them is what we call the context window. And without getting too technical, that's basically the amount of information you can feed into that model to ask this model to do something, okay? Do something can be as basic as write a summary of this document, okay? So up to this size of context window, you can basically give it a few pages if you want. With this context size, you can give actually books, encyclopedias if you want to think on that. Or you can also provide it with more dense content, which is a video, okay? Here you actually see an example where we gave it a video. The video is actually a lot of tokens, which is just how we size that content, and ask questions on top of that. So being able to interact with images, video, in a large format, it actually simplifies a lot how you do a lot of applications. And additionally, it supports also more advanced formats like PDFs and so on that you can start to do queries on top of those automatically. So I arrived yesterday, and like I said in the beginning, it's a pleasure to be back to Istanbul. Please ask questions to us so I can keep coming back. But yesterday I arrived in my hotel, and I was doing some email, of course, and someone knocked on the door. I said, what's going on? And it was actually a very nice surprise. The hotel service provided me, what is in that picture, right? A plate with a few different items, and I just took a picture. That's literally a picture taken yesterday with my phone, and I said, okay, let's see what happens with Gemini. What can I do, okay? So literally took me a few seconds. This is the interface of Vertex. And look at that. I just wrote that like that. My hotel staff just gave me what is in this picture, describe everything there, and also try to understand where I'm staying, okay? And within a few seconds, it's just basically telling me there's a water bottle, there's a apple, there's a muffin of blueberry, there's a macaron, and by the way, I can find that is Marriott. He actually finds a word in Turkish, and it tries to understand what it means, and basically says that he thinks I'm staying at Marriott, and it's written in Turkish in the card, and he's welcome. And I also asked, sorry you didn't saw that part, I also said, please detect where are the options and put that in a JSON. I know that was a more technical part. So that's just how powerful Gemini can be within a few seconds. Think about when you spend more time customizing what you're trying to achieve, and of course, what your developers can build with that. It's not only about Gemini. We have other more specialized models. What you see here is something called Image Gen. That's a model very specific to generate images. We released the newest version a few weeks back, and I think the images speak by themselves, right? If you are creating a marketing campaign, or sometimes if you just want to quickly prototype before you hand over to your favorite agency to create that, or see the value, or maybe A/B testing, you can just use some prompts. Of course, you can be very specific, and be able to create that. You can do a lot more things. You can even provide pictures, ask questions on top of that. And we also keep adding a bit more advanced capabilities. And once more, everything that you see there is available to an UI, but also to an SDK and an API, which means that you can integrate everything you see there in your own business process or application, which I think is very important. We added a few more things, not just generating, doing object detection, removing objects, and also creating text-to-live image, which we introduced very recently. So as you can see, there's a lot of opportunities there to keep adding new capabilities. Still on the models, as I mentioned, you can run Gemini, which is fantastic for a lot of use cases. You can run open source models, which are also very interesting. We also introduced quite recently what we call Gemma. And Gemma is a family of open models based in some of the technology behind Gemini that allows, of course, to have smaller models, more efficient, that you can probably run actually wherever you want, and can allow you to quickly prototype, but why not even taking things into production? So that's what we introduced. It's called Gemma, and additionally, we also integrated with Hugging Face, which you might have heard about. That's a large repository, so why not bringing those models into Vortex and being able to consume them? On the Gemma point, I think it's important to understand how Google has been committed to keep delivering that innovation also in open fashion as it is the open models of Gemma. I mentioned briefly that you can do a lot of things on top of Vertex. I will not kill you with all the details here. I think the main point is it's a platform for generative AI, also for productivity AI. Those models will not go away, but allow you actually to have a lot of very advanced capabilities. And the main one that I would nail on is what we call fine-tuning, which is being basically saying you have a large model, Gemini or other one, bring your corpus of data, which can be your PDFs, your videos, customize that model, so that model now understands your data and can answer your data. And we have actually a lot of very specific techniques to do that, which I think really helps you to accelerate. And once more, all those things should go into production, otherwise it's pointless, right? Just experimenting with AI for the sake of experimenting is not what we want to do. We want to iterate, validate the value, and take that into production. And that's also a platform that is designed for taking, scaling across wherever size of customers that you might have there. Last point there, and please don't take that less important, is actually, in my view, the most important one, is not just about that I say this model is good enough for my case. As anything in data, you need to measure. You need to understand what it means this model is good. That's called evaluation. Okay? You need to evaluate the performance of the model. And that's also something you can do there. You can actually combine different models. You can combine Gemini, open source, or any other ones out of there in the model and say, okay, for this task or for this set of 50 questions, compare how it performs against those two models and do your own results. So the evaluation piece is probably the most essential one, and it needs to be there, it needs to be automated, and that's the step before you take into production. Last but not least, you might have heard about the concept of agents. It's actually a concept that exists for a long time. Now it's getting back into the Gen AI world. You can think about an agent as a very, in a very simple way, as a piece of software that allows to put a goal or a task and figure out how to achieve that. That's the idea. We actually create something that we call Agent Builder. So that's kind of built on top of the large language model I mentioned before. You see a lot of examples there. There's a lot more. And we really see that will be the next generation of generative API applications will be leveraging agents. Why? Because agents are able to do a bit more than just a language model. Usually the language model is very transactional. You ask something, you get something back, okay? Unless you create something very complex. The agents are different. The idea is the agents is you can teach or configure them to be able to look for information. So like when I ask, I don't know, for the stock price of a company or the weather in a location, the agent can have capabilities to go and call an external service, get that information, and keep executing the prompt. It can also connect to your data sources. We don't need to put all the information in the model. So it can connect, ask the right questions to your data sources, and execute the flow. So you're going to see a lot of things about agents, and we already put them in Vertex, which allows you to create them, and also bring your own extensions if you want that you can, for example, leverage across your companies. Last piece here, once more, not less important. I'm sure you have heard about the word hallucination. That's very common in large language models. Every single large language model will hallucinate. We need to be comfortable with that. What we can do is we can use advanced techniques to mitigate or control that. And that's an example for that. The technical word is called grounding, which is basically, by the end of the day, when a large language model replies something, asks why, where these answers are coming from, right? Because we cannot put at risk that it just makes up answers that are not real and in front of our customers. So we added a lot of things there. We actually have been having this grounding for our own documents for a while on top of your search information, but we also added recently to interact with Google Search. So when the model generates, I don't know, the capital of Turkey is Istanbul, we all know that's correct, but we can go to Google Search and check that with the fact, with the source, and provide the URL based on the confidence level. So you're going to see a lot of those, but those are actually already there, generally available, and can help you to create better guardrails to ensure that your models go live with responsible AI, which has been part of our core services on AI for a very long time. Okay, I know we covered a lot. It says I have 1 minute, which means I'm really on time. Just as a very quick recap, I mentioned a lot of ideas that might be helpful for you to create generative AI use cases. I think the key message is that that's not a hype, it's here, it's impacting businesses, and many of the ones that I showed and mentioned, they are already live and in production, which of course gives them either new business models or competitive advantage around their customers. As it was said in the first morning today, I think it's time to think about action, which means, okay, let's try out the technology and validate and use that applied to the business process into production. We've seen that Vertex AI is a fully managed solution for that. We can, of course, pick any model there, from Gemini to open source. We can adjust and evaluate those models, which is really important. And of course, we expect to keep seeing more the concept of agents, which take that to the next level. I think that's my last slide. So I just want to share with you my a bit personal observations of working with customers across the last 1.5 years. And those are learnings that might be helpful for you, hopefully on top of Vertex, but I think they are general enough. It's not about the model. If it's not was clear before, it's really about getting the right platform and the right tools. Over time, you're going to see different models. They're going to get better. The flexibility is being able to cherry pick the models and just use them. And start quickly. Prototype. This technology democratizes the access to AI. You don't need to have a 6-month project. They are just APIs. You call, you send things. The results are good, you use them. If they are not good, go try out something else. Don't forget about data. You cannot do anything without data. That doesn't change with Gen AI. You might have an impression that it's smart enough, but if you really want to solve business problems, you probably need to bring your own data. And as I said, everything here is based on a lot of very advanced techniques and innovation that Google has been building, and they are available for you as a company on demand on Google Cloud. With that, I think I will just thank once more to Worry Data, which is our key partner in the region. They also have experience on delivering use cases in production, so happy to take any questions offline and talk with both of you. Thank you.